Hi everyone, this is our next video on advances in American life. So these are going to be medicine, technology, all of the things we get out of the 1950s and that big economic boom we talked about in the last video. So the first thing we're going to talk about is advances in medicine. Now, in the 1950s, they create the polio vaccine. If you don't know, a vaccine is like a medicine or a shot that you get right when you are born or when you're little to stop you from ever getting a disease. So polio was a disease that was getting a lot of people when they were young and causing them to die. If you remember, President Franklin Roosevelt had polio, and that's eventually what led to his death. So creating a vaccine in the 1950s is so important. In fact, in 2020, polio has basically been eradicated. It's been removed from society. The next thing they're going to create is an artificial heart valve. So in your body, your heart pumps blood, as you know, from one part of your body to another. So there's a special valve, kind of like a tube, in your heart that gets the blood out of your heart and into the rest of your body. So they actually created an artificial one that is not made in the body, made out of basically a type of plastic that they can put in your body in case your valve breaks. They also created open heart bypass. This is a surgery that you will typically have if you have some type of heart attack, where basically they cut open your chest, and instead of, because they need to repair your heart, so instead of your heart pumping the blood through your body, they connect the blood to a machine, and the machine pumps the blood through your body while they repair your heart. They also do organ transplants. So this is going to be, for example, if you all know Selena Gomez has a disease in which her kidney started to fail her. So they actually took a kidney from one person and took it out of their body and put it into Selena Gomez's body so that her body could work. So this is something that they created in the 1950s. And then genetic engineering, this is basically the idea that you can create a custom human almost. If you want your baby to have blue eyes, they started making genetic engineering to figure out how to make someone have a blue-eyed baby. If you want your baby to be a girl, to be a boy, now this isn't something that is in use, but they started this process in the 1950s. This picture over here, if you're looking at this brace with the feet, this is actually what someone who has polio would have to wear. So FDR, when he was younger, he would wear this brace around his legs and around his back to help strengthen his muscles. So they actually were able to get rid of this disease because of the vaccine. Another thing, women are finding the ability to find jobs in limited fields. They're still going to make less money than men, like I said, but this is going to be women getting into nursing for the first time, becoming teachers, that type of thing. They typically had shorter work weeks in the 1950s than people before, and vacation time to go and take that trip to Italy if they ever wanted to. So these are all newer things that are showing up in the 1950s. Also, leisure time activities. We're talking sporting events like going to watch a football, a basketball, a baseball game, even playing games, going out and playing frisbee, anything to relax. Bowling alley showed up in the 1950s. They would have dance halls where they would just open them up and people could dance. All of these things, multi-billion dollars they're spending on leisure, which is like free time. As a country, we're spending at least $2 billion on what to do in our free time. And then anything to make labor less intensive. So in the last PowerPoint, there were washing machines that women were buying. Up until the 1950s, you had to hand wash your clothes. Has anybody ever had to hand wash their clothes before? If you haven't, let me tell you how it works, because I have had to hand wash my clothes. Basically, what you do is you have a scrubbing board, a washing board of some sort that you take your clothes in like a soapy water mix, and you scrub your clothes on this board, and then you lay them out to dry. It's a very long process and it takes a lot of time and effort. So being able to have a washing machine, a stove, a microwave, microwaves for the first time ever. These are all of these leisure activities. It's the washing machine, a dishwasher. How many of you have to do dishes at home and would love to have a dishwasher? And a lawnmower that has a motor. So all of these things are going to save us time and save us energy. That's the goal. Highways. Like I said, we already talked about highways, but this is how we are going to move products across the country. So we're going to have more trucking, these big trucks over here in this picture, less railroads. We're not going to be using railroads as much as we were in the past, in the 1930s, 40s, even in the 1800s. And there's going to be more suburbs. The more roads there are, the farther away you can live away from the city. And people didn't want to live in the city because they're loud, they're dirty, and they wanted it to be quiet. There's not a lot of space in the city. They wanted their kids to be able to play in a backyard. These are all of the goals of the highway. We can kind of spread out our lives a little bit more. Before, everyone was all crammed into the city and they were like on top of each other, always like bumping into each other. So now that we've got highways and we can move out into those suburbs, there's more space. We're now taking up more space. And consumerism, again, consumerism is just buying stuff. So if you're looking over here at this picture, they're buying everything and it's making them happy. In the mid 1950s, we're going to see the middle class appear. Now, something interesting about people who are classified as middle class, a way to show that they are middle class and not lower class or not poor is to buy stuff. It's something that has continued in the United States up until 2020. So if you've ever driven by someone's house and they have a lot of lawn ornaments out there, I always think of those houses around Christmas time where they've got, you know, the blow up snowman and the lights covering every inch of their house, and there's some kind of projector moving on. Those are typically people who are trying to show their wealth that way. American society also does this in the form of cars. So you'll see a lot of people who might not make a lot of money, but they drive really nice cars as a way to show their wealth through buying stuff, basically. Consumerism, we're buying material goods because our goods, the more stuff we have and the better stuff we have, we're more successful. And remember the idea of the American dream. So if you work hard, you can be whatever you want and you'll be more successful. And there's new products. You're going to see ads for things that have never existed before. Video games are going to show up. Now, it's not Fortnite, so don't get excited. Very, very basic video games, but they're there. Television. How many of you have spent a lot of time during coronavirus watching TV? You all should probably have raised your hand. Miss Dillon alone has gone through like 3 shows in her Netflix queue. It's a bit aggressive. But the 1950s is where TV really shows up. Now, they didn't have streaming services back then, so they did have to watch TV, but this is how we reach a large audience of people. So if we want to see something, we are glued in front of the TV, okay? It is known as the golden age of television. This is where all of the TV shows kind of show up. Uncle Milty is a TV show. Comedians are on TV. Lucille Ball, if you've ever seen the I Love Lucy show, that is like one of the most popular TV shows. It's this couple right here. The woman you can't see, yes, they were in black and white back then. I know, shocking. But Lucy has really bright red hair, and her husband over there is Ricky. And basically, Lucy gets into a whole bunch of trouble, and it's always funny. I would have shown you thousands of clips. Unfortunately, we're just not in class together. But this is the age of comedy TV. So shows today like The Office, Parks and Rec, they are modeled after things like the Uncle Milty show and the I Love Lucy sitcom. There's I. And then we've got this idea of a subculture. So if you're looking at this picture over here in the upper right-hand corner, This is a guy named Elvis. How can I describe Elvis? He is what they call the king of rock and roll. So this is the type of music that kids listened to in the 1950s. He's also considered like the celebrity crush of the decade. Okay, girls would go crazy for him. They would show up at his concerts and he would be screaming everywhere. If you're a fan of The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he actually sings Elvis songs. So if you're on YouTube, you're bored, look up The Rock singing Elvis. You won't be disappointed. So here's the idea of a subculture. If you'll remember from the last video, I told you that they want everyone to be the same, everyone to act the same. Well, being teenagers, you know that adults and teenagers don't act the same way. So this is where we're really going to look at this difference here. So rock and roll was this new type of music. All of the adults would say it's loud, it makes no sense, I don't understand what they're singing about. How could they sing about all of these things? So this is kind of the moment where teenagers really get to have their own movement, and they call it the beat movement. It is where you celebrate not being like other people. You celebrate having a lifestyle and an attitude that is all your own. So if you've ever seen the movie Grease, to compare, if you haven't seen the movie Grease, you should. Grease would be how Sandy would dress before she met Danny at the carnival. So beat culture is all about dressing however you want to, being however you want to be. So we talked a lot at the beginning of the year of how women used to be like kept at home. They weren't allowed to come out without like a family escort. Now in the 1950s with the beat culture, women are wearing pants for the first time, like jeans or tight leather pants for the first time ever, and out in public as a normal thing. It's not a work thing, it's a fashion thing. So this becomes a huge movement. And then rock and roll, it is considered, originally was considered race music. So was originally connected with minority groups. And then Elvis makes it popular with the white community as well. So Elvis is a very influential guy. Listen to some of his music. My personal favorite would have to be You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. If you get a chance on YouTube, look it up. Appreciate it.